the courage of our fallen soldiers to give their all for us. Amen. Courage comes in so many different ways. One day I was packing into a camp down there on Baldy, and I come up on this shortcut that I knew of. I had my pack horse, my pack mule behind me, and I started up this bench, made it up the first couple benches, and got up there a little ways. Came up on that last bench, and there was a bear, Sal, and 2 cubs. Things got western in a hurry. I was riding a 3-year-old colt. She was not impressed with the bear. The bear was not impressed with me. And we kind of had a little wreck. I decided at that time it was a good idea to let my mule go, so I threw the lead rope away. My little 3-year-old, she panicked. She slipped on the rocks. She fell down on me, and we slid down to the bottom of that bench. We were down there in a heap, and that bear's up there, and she's woofing at us, and she's pawing the ground, and I guess we were looking pretty tasty to her at that point in time. And I thought, well, Lord, if I'm going to go, this is a good place to go. I'm all right with that. And my horse was trying to get up, and I wouldn't let her up because she was kind of laying on me. We were in an awkward position, and I didn't want her breaking my pelvis. So I had the rein tied up there. And unfortunately, I'm laying on my left side, and I'm laying on my gun. I can't get my gun out to protect myself. Well, about that time, Goofy the mule, he was a black mule. He had a pack on. He steps around me and River. We're laying there in a heap. And he walks up there, and he stood between me and that bear. And he looked at that bear, laid his ears back. And you know how a mule will bray, like that? Well, it wasn't like that. He looked at that bear, squared up, and he just went, he just bellered. I mean, it raised the hair on the back of my neck. I thought, my gosh, he sounds worse than that bear does. And that bear looked at Goofy, and she took her cubs, and off the bench they went, and they took off. Courage comes when we least expect it, in the most unique ways that God uses. That mule saved my life that day, no question. And yet, he did it, and you know what he did? He just turned around and started eating grass like Phil Bisbee. That's what we look at today with our fallen soldiers. They did it. They didn't expect fanfare, parade. They didn't expect praises, pats on the back. What they expected was, we have a job to do and we're going to do it. And if it costs our lives, we're willing to do that too. Memorial Day here at Open Range Cowboy Church, we got a feel for what it's all about. We got a lot of vets in this church. Got some Vietnam vets in this church. Afghanistan, Iraq vets. They know what it's all about. They don't take for granted their freedoms. But so many people today that live here in this country do. They take their freedoms for granted, and they don't even think about the fallen soldier that shed his blood for that freedom. They think that Memorial Day is barbecues and grand old wet days. Yeah. It used to be Grand Old West Days, but we just call it Grand Old Wet Days because every Memorial Day weekend it rains or snows. And so Memorial Day is for the memory of our friends, family, our comrades who died for our freedoms. We got to take just a moment as a church. Yeah, look at the ones who came home. Look at who they are. They made it back. But also take a moment. You saw them standing up here. Lift them up in prayer this week. They carry scars that we'll never know. They carry scars from battlefields and what was left there. The loss in battle, it affects many. Not only those who were there, but their families at home. And it also affects our country. Because it's through that sacrifice why we still are the greatest country in this world. As believers, on Memorial Day, we get to realize that if any freedom comes, it's through the shedding of blood. If you want freedom from sin, you have to believe in Jesus Christ and that He shed His blood for you. If you want to live in a free country, you have to know that it was on the blood of the patriots that we have the freedoms that we have. There is no freedom that we have that isn't blood-based freedom. Isn't that amazing? How did God design that? And yet it's so imperative that we grab a hold of that truth and understand it. You know, Jesus shed His blood to pay a debt of sin that I could never pay. And He did it freely, and He did it for me when I was His enemy. And when you put that into perspective of our soldiers, they go there, they know that they are not favored by everybody. There were protests, there still are, about our Army, our Navy, Air Force, and our Marines. When you go to serve, you go because you know it's the right thing to do. You don't do it for the favor of people. You do it because you know it's right. Well, isn't that the same thing as how we walk for Jesus? We do it because we know it's right. We don't do it to gain favor with anybody else. This is directly between us and Him. Amen. 1 Corinthians 9:7 says this, who serves as a soldier at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard without eating of its fruit? Or who tends a flock without getting some of the milk? Yeah, there's a reward for serving. And those that haven't served, they never know. They don't even understand the sacrifices that went into it. Many of them just sit back and say, that's their job. It's not mine. Some can't serve. We understand that too. Many of our vets were not honored when they came back. Many of them were spit on, called names, dishonored. Even our politicians still to this day don't really honor our vets like they should. They would rather honor a fallen black tyrant rather than to honor our vets. I'm telling you, we've got it mixed up. We don't, but those who are in this country do. Our political leaders, the ones who have never served, never understand, and I don't believe we should have presidents and congressmen that haven't served. I think that that should be a mandatory thing in our country. Because without the thought of sacrifice, how can they serve a nation? Jesus came here with one thought in mind, and He says, I don't come here to be served, but I come to serve. I come so that all can be set free through what I do. I don't expect you to like me. I did it for you when you didn't like me. That's what Jesus said. When He hung on that cross, and that thief looked at Him, and he said, why don't you just pull yourself down? And Jesus just looked at him, and the other thief said, hey, just shut up. This guy didn't do anything wrong. He's innocent. And He is sacrificing this, and He's shedding His blood for us. He's the only righteous, sinless one. And he said, I want to know what you have. And Jesus looked at him and he said, because you want it, your faith has set you free. And I will see you in paradise today. Can you imagine what it would be like if our country was to get on its knees and to seek God as a unified country again? The power that would come into this country. That's what our fallen soldiers have paid for. We should honor that by being more fervent in prayer and being more honoring in our lives. I'm not saying that we should honor our government, no way. I'm saying that we should honor our God, that we should honor the 10 Commandments. And the reason that we have 581,000 laws is because we as believers didn't stand on 10 easy ones. It comes to a responsibility for believers. We are not here to not fight. Or he wouldn't have said, you're a good soldier. In 2 Timothy, second chapter, verses 3 and 4, Paul says this to Timothy, share in the suffering as a good soldier of Christ. No soldier gets entangled in civilian pursuits, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. See, we're enlisted by Jesus Christ. Our enlistment papers were signed in blood in the book of life. How about that? And you know why it's signed in blood? It's signed in the blood of the Lamb to never be taken out and erased. Amen. That is so powerful. And he enlisted us to suffer as a good soldier. And you think about this, when you look at the life of David, we're going through Psalms in our Bible study here on Sunday morning. When you look at the life of David, he was never had it easy. I mean, he was hiding in caves, he was running, he had opportunity after opportunity to get even with Saul, and he didn't. Instead, he honored God because he said, I will not dishonor the anointed king that you anointed. Amen. And so as he prays to God, he says, God, I don't want to dishonor you by dishonoring your anointed king. Let me tell you something, folks. We will have trials and suffering in our lives. But we are in the army of God and not of the world. When we're in the army of God, we can walk righteously and justly, and we can stand up boldly, and we can be courageous, and we can move forward. And no matter what happens in our lives, we know that we have that foundation to stand on, and nothing can shake it. Nothing can come into our lives that's going to have us shaken off of the foundation of Jesus. Yesterday I was driving home from Denver. We went down and visited Larry. And as we came up through Cameron Pass, that's such a beautiful drive. And we were talking, Dina and I were just talking about, wow, look at this. God created this with just his voice. Now think about what heaven will be like. I mean, if it's better than this, wow. When you look at that, what gets me, when I'm riding in the mountains sometimes on the horses, okay, and I'm all alone, and you get up there, and you're looking around, and you're thinking, I can never explore it all. And I can't take it all in. And yet, heaven is better than this. And we will experience it all. Because you know what? We have an eternity to explore it. Isn't that amazing? It just is overwhelming, and we can't wrap our mind around it. Amen. And God has promised that to us. And he says, and I make it so easy. It's a free gift. That's what's amazing. He gives us that free gift. He says, I'm giving you a taste of heaven. This is earth, okay? It's just a taste of what heaven's going to be. Wow. If it's a taste of what I have had the opportunity to see, I'm ready for the banquet. Aren't you? Isn't that amazing? Now think about this. The other neat part is everybody's going to be in unity up there. We're all going to be together with one thing, one focus. And what I'm looking forward to, because I like to eat, is that I have a chair at the banquet table with my name on it and nobody else can sit there. It's mine. It's reserved for me.
George Tabasco.
That's it. And coffee. Right? There'll be Tabasco and coffee right next to my plate. Every day. For every meal. Man, heaven. Right? And you just look at that and you think about all of this stuff. So in 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13, it says this: be watchful. Stand firm in the faith. Act like a man. Be strong. Let all that you can do be done in love. If you love this country, have you done all you can do to preserve it? If you love this country, have you done all you can do to show Jesus to the lost? You know, not to be a downer this time of year, but from the very beginning of this great country, the blood of patriots has set us free. So today, take a moment to take that freedom and thank those fallen vets by standing for truth and honor, and then honor this country by honoring God. You can think of that. But tell them, thank you for coming home to show us how to honor the fallen ones. And I think it's so important as we look at that those who have never experienced that, take a moment. Talk with a vet that has. Because it'll touch you to your heart, to the core of who you are. Because folks, when they're in battle, you're with family. They're not just comrades and marching bands. They're brothers in arms. Remember that. So as you shake the hand of a vet, look into their eyes and say, tell me, help me to understand. I'm going to close with this. It's a poem, and then we're just closing the service. It's called A Time to Remember. To those who came home from battles far away, even friends who won't be back, it is in their honor today. So when Memorial Day comes, most soldiers slow down and they take time to remember. Looking in the mirror, the faces that are seen are of fallen crew members. I'm driving by a cemetery. That veteran section is legendary. Walking among the dated headstones, realizing the price of freedom owned. These vets made it home to rest, yet so many left on the battlefields unblessed. No honor guard or loved ones aware, only comrades to remember their efforts in prayer. For all of those who didn't come home, a patriot's life lived and shone. With memories of brothers who gave their all, let's take a silent moment for those who fall. The blood of patriots shed around the world, our freedom comes from the soldiers who into battle were hurled. Today is a reminder of soldiers past. Those friends and protectors, their sacrifice is vast. Many have fallen since we have served. Remember these brave soldiers, their honor preserved. Memorial Day is for the living. Through the sacrifice of fallen soldiers, let freedom ring.